Hello and welcome. The United Nations moves thousands of men, women and machines all around the world to maintain peace and keep all its operations humming. The procurement contracts for all this effort runs into billions of dollars. Let's find out more as we speak to Yabar Khan, Chief Corporate Procurement at the United Nations Procurement Division. Mr. Khan, thank you very much for speaking with us. So walk us through what the logistics and the nature of your role in the UN is.
Okay, I'm the Chief of Corporate Procurement Section for the United Nations, and so my role is to predominantly support, obviously, offices away from headquarters and procurement in New York, but the procurement division overall supports peacekeeping operations, and 80% of our budget is spent basically on supporting peacekeeping operations. So these are the blue helmeted soldiers that you see around the world keeping peace. They have to be fed, they have to be housed, they have to have equipment, fuel, and our role is to make sure that we buy those for the end user.
And what are you doing in India specifically in this area?
Well, part of the mandate of the General Assembly to us is to encourage and further enhance the vendors from developing countries and countries with economies in transition. Mm-hmm. And part of the reason why I've been invited here is to provide information on how the UN does business in terms of encouraging more suppliers to register with us on the United Nations Global Marketplace, in the hope that we will get more competition from vendors from India.
And are you seeing any new kinds of expressions of interest as opposed to before?
Well, procurement is always evolving, supply chain is always evolving, so obviously technology is enhancing, so we're seeing continually new technological requirements that are coming up. We're looking at changing the way that we charter aircraft, so we're continually monitoring and evolving our procurement processes.
What's changing on the geopolitical front in terms of complexity as well as geographically that's changing the way you perhaps are writing your procurement contracts?
Sure. I think in the last 5 years we've moved away from sort of single sourcing to more through life support, logistics supports, more coherent large contracts where we ask one vendor to be able to provide a lot of services rather than in the old days maybe 10 or 20 suppliers. We've also further enhanced what we call systems contracts, where we've placed large systems contracts so we can just draw down on them when there's a requirement. And I think in the last 2 years we've opened a United Nations Procurement Division office in Entebbe as a regional procurement office, because a lot of our requisitioners or end users are in Africa, and so that's further enhanced the ability to service our customers in a more efficient manner.
What about Asia?
In Asia, the peacekeeping operations are limited, so as such, predominantly our peacekeeping operations are centered around Africa and the Middle East.
Right. And the kind of challenges you face on ground today, or your peacekeeping forces face, are they changing at all, or are they more or less the same kind of challenges that they've always faced?
I think they're similar challenges, basically in terms of logistics. In some countries the infrastructure isn't there or it's not sufficient enough, so it takes time for the goods and services to be moved to the end user.
And what are the challenges that you see ahead as perhaps there are geopolitical shifts or new demands on peacekeeping forces?
Well, I think that's always the challenge, which is the new peacekeeping operation. We never know when it's happening. It's not something that's planned for.
Sure.
And therefore we have to be ready, and we have to make sure that we have appropriate contracts in place that should the Security Council or the UN mandate that there is a new peacekeeping mission, that we can react quickly and help the end user.
So let me put a slightly different question. In the manner that you are supplying to peacekeeping forces all over the world, is the world becoming a safer place?
That's an interesting question, and I'm not sure from a procurement perspective I can answer that.
Right. No, I mean the question is really, are you putting out more men, women and machines than ever before, or is it less, or do you see any trends there?
I think it's fair to say that our procurement has increased. In 2012 it's gone to $15 billion. That is procurement for the whole of the UN system. Mm-hmm. But when we look at our procurement for the peacekeeping operations or for the United Nations Procurement Division, it has gone down. I think just from over 3 billion to 2.9 billion. And that could be, well, because of efficiencies and things like that. So it's a difficult issue to discuss and comment on.
What do you love most about your job?
I think that what I love is not knowing what's going to happen tomorrow. Because every day is a new day in the UN, and you really don't know what you're going to be required, or where the next emergency might be, or what the next issue might be.
Yawar Khan, thank you very much for speaking with us.
Thank you very much.